Esther, thank you so much for offering this presentation today.
Thank you for having me today. So we will get right to it because it is a lot of content. Today we're going to be talking about avoiding COVID-19 scams. This presentation is pretty interactive, Margaret and Jay. So if you guys, want to chat with me in the chat, that would be great. So let's get started. So I am with the Division of Consumer Protection. I am an outreach coordinator, and we have 5 units here at DCP. I'm part of the education and outreach unit. Pre-pandemic, we used to do these presentations in person, and so now we've had to sort of pivot and do these virtually. Like I said, I'm part of the education and outreach unit. My job is to sort of go out into the community and do presentations on a variety of topics. Because of COVID, we've sort of added this new presentation topic, and so we'll talk more about that in a little bit. We also have a consumer assistance program. We'll talk about them at the end, but they're the ones who sort of manage our helpline. Some pretty amazing consumer advisors that we have just a phone call away. We also have a utility and intervention unit. A lot of folks don't know about them, but I call them the little engine that could. They're there to sort of advocate on New Yorkers' behalf to the utility companies to make sure that your rates don't go up every year. So they're there advocating on your behalf. We also have an investigations unit. It's pretty self-explanatory, but their role on a state level is to investigate do not call violations. And so they're kept pretty busy. We also have a consumer policy unit, and they're the ones who advocate policy to the executive and legislative branches. And so one of the policies that we advocated for was the pink tax that got picked up in the governor's State of the State address this year. And if you're not familiar with it, it's just products that are pretty much the same. So think about a razor, a blue razor be less expensive than a pink one, and just because it's pink and geared towards women, it might be more expensive, even though it's the same product. So we advocated for the prohibition of the pink tax, and that got added to the state of the state this year. So it's a little bit about us here at DCP. So today we're going to talk about what do scammers want from you, who are the targets. We're going to sort of take a few scams and break them down and the anatomy of the scam. So overall, we're going to talk about phone scams, email scams, text, contact tracing, economic stimulus, and online shopping scams. So we'll talk about how you can prevent some of those along the way as well. So I always like to sort of ask this question, no matter what my presentation topic is. Oops, sorry. And so you guys could just sort of tell me in the chat section. Oops, sorry, I'm having some technical issues here. If you guys could sort of tell me in the chat function if you have been a victim of identity theft or a scam. So you just type it in the chat. Let me know if you have been a victim of identity theft or scams. Just want to get a little lay of the land and see if you guys have been in the past. If you just tell me quickly in the chat. I know you guys are out and about doing things, I'm sure. But if you can tell me very quickly in the chat if you have been. No identity thefts, but I did have my credit card used in Reno and Las Vegas and a hotel in New York City. So not identity theft, but something, right? Yeah. One time someone got a credit card number, but not ID theft. Okay. So sorry, on a laptop here, so things are a little funky for me, but let's see. So I like to say that even if you don't lose money to a scam, right? So even if you haven't necessarily been a victim of identity theft, you were a victim of something, right? They may not have taken money from you, but they did they did use the money at a hotel. And I like to sort of say that even if you don't lose money to a scam, even if your spider senses sort of go off right away, and you don't lose money, you were still approached by one, and so you are a victim, right? So even if someone tries to lure you into their scam, there's something going on there that even got them to you to begin with. So I say it's very important to sort of stay on top of your credit report. It's one of the easiest things that you can do to see if you've been a victim of identity theft or scams. And now, because of COVID, you actually have access to your credit report every single week until April of 2021. And I just want to sort of stress what an amazing resource that is. Prior to this pandemic, you only had access to your credit report once a year, and now they're giving you access to it every single week. And that's pretty amazing. And so take advantage of that. The way that you can do that is by checking annualcreditreport.com. There are a lot of different credit reporting companies out there that sort of say that they can give you access to your credit report, but the actual official one is annualcreditreport.com. That gives you access to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. A lot of the other companies out there only give you access to one or two, and I haven't seen any that give you access to all three. So the way to do it officially is through annualcreditreport.com. I cannot stress enough, use it, and that's the best way to sort of stay on top of it, and it's quick and easy to do. So if you've been a victim, if someone tried to send you a text message, call you through robocall, should you take it personal? The answer is no, don't take it personal. A scammer is never after you personally, they're essentially after your money. So they don't care where you're from, that you're retired, that you just started college. They do not care. Ultimately, all they want is your money. So, they try to access it through whatever means necessary, whatever technology they have at their disposition. That's what they're going to try to sort of go after you. And so scam, fraud, identity theft targets all ages, incomes, and background, and it even targets children. So, children are not exempt from this. Seniors are not exempt from this. Military personnel are not exempt from this. Anyone can be a victim. So we have a completely different presentation on child identity theft as well, but that's how serious it is. So just something for us to think about. So ultimately, what do scammers want? So this is not an exhaustive list, but they want your full legal name, right? I have a colleague, her name is Melissa.
Esther,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not sure if you're showing your screen, but we're not seeing anything.
I am showing my screen.
Okay.
And you guys can't see it?
Yeah, maybe, oh, she's seeing. Okay, if someone's seeing it, I'm not, but,
Okay,
all right, so then
sorry.
that's just on my end. All right.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So
Thank you.
let me continue on. No problem. So scammers, like I said, they want your full legal name. Like I said, I have a colleague. Her name is Melissa. We call her Missy. A scammer could potentially want to know what her real name, as opposed to sort of this nickname that she has. They want your social security number. They even want Medicare D number. We've seen Medicare fraud out there as well. They want your bank account numbers, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And I just sort of wanted to point this out, that this was something that was very popular at the beginning of this pandemic, when we were all really staying at home, where these sort of conversational quizzes on Facebook came out, where the quizzes were like, what's your first pet's name? What was yours? What school did you go to? Where did you get married? And we saw these like quizzes pop up, and people were sort of posting them on Facebook. And when you really sort of come and think about it, a lot of those questions are these like security questions that they ask you to identify your identity. So not sure if we're going to have more hardcore stay-at-home orders moving forward, but just in the future, if you do see those quizzes popping up, I know we were all really bored, but if you see those quizzes popping up again, think twice before you answer them. They're fun to do. I'm not going to say that they aren't, but that quiz in the wrong hands could be very dangerous for your information. So be on the lookout for that and avoid it. So who are the targets? So according to the Federal Trade Commission, and they're the ones who sort of maintain the data, adults over 60 are the least likely of any age group to report losing money. So that could be a variety of reasons. It could be that, you know, they don't know who to reach out to. They may not be computer savvy. Um, you know, they might be embarrassed. And so they're the least likely to report it out of any of the age groups. But when they do report it, their financial losses are greater than a younger consumer. And those over 80 report losing over $1,700, right? It's a lot of money to lose in one shot. And so it's important that we do these educational programming so that you guys know what's out there. Younger consumers in their 20s and 30s are 25 times more likely to report losing money. Again, that could be a variety of reasons. But their reported losses are about $400. For them, they tend to sort of lose money while shopping online, right? It says they're twice as likely to report losing money while shopping online. Older consumers, the scams that they tend to fall for are tech support scams or imposter fraud. And imposter fraud could be like someone calling saying, "Hey, grandma, I'm in jail." And so those are the scams that older consumers tend to fall for more often. So as we sort of go through this presentation, I just sort of wanted to note that I will present you with a lot of information. You will be presented with a lot of information beyond me, and to always sort of rely on trusted and legitimate sites. This list obviously is not a complete list, but we suggest that you reach out to the New York State Department of Health, the New York City Department of Health for coronavirus information, the CDC, the World Health Organization, and the federal organizations that are listed below as well. So this is just a little list of where you can go to get the most up-to-date information as the COVID-19 pandemic sort of evolves and moves forward. So let's take a crack at the first one. So here we have phone scams. And you guys stop me at any point, Jay, stop me at any point because I can't see the chat while I'm doing this. So
Yeah,
let me know if
I just want to
anything comes up.
because I'm not seeing, I know you have a presentation, I'm not seeing it, and I just want to clarify because I know Margaret says she sees you, I'm not sure if she's seeing the presentation. So I just want to make sure
Yeah.
the screen is being shared. I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
She's not seeing the screen shared either.
She's not seeing the screen?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's try this again. It's okay.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
about now?
there it is.
Okay,
Up
so
there.
we're
Yep.
we're all good
All right.
now.
I'm
Okay,
so sorry.
cool.
Thank you so
It's
much.
okay. Uh,
And I'll chime in if there's any action in the chat box.
got it. Thank you. Because it's kind of hard to see
Yeah.
everything while
It's
I
life
have
in
all
2020. Just roll with
Exactly.
the punches.
Exactly.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. All right, so phone scams are our first sort of scam that we're going to take a look at today. So here you're going to hear a robocall. And as you guys hear this robocall, I just sort of want you guys to pay attention to it and tell me what you think could potentially be a scam here. What are some of the things that you look out to determine whether or not it's a scam that you're listening to, besides the fact that we all hate robocalls? But what is it from it that sort of, you know, perks your ears?
Response Act has made coronavirus testing more accessible immediately. If you want to receive a free testing kit delivered overnight to your home, press 1. If you do not want your free testing, press 2.
Okay, so you guys heard this robocall. What is it about this robocall that sort of perks your ears? Something that tells you, hey, this is a scam, or maybe this could be real. What are some of the things that you sort of look out to? Okay, Margaret said free. Yeah, so that's one of them, right? Why do I have to do anything if you don't want it? Yeah, correct. So let's dissect this. So in this particular robocall, it doesn't tell you who's calling, right? So they're just randomly calling you. It's not telling you who is calling you. As of right now, there are no mail-in test kits for COVID-19. So that's already a red flag, right? Why will they send you a mail-in test kit? One doesn't exist. They also are telling you to press 2 if you want this to stop, if you don't want to get any of their further information. And so just sort of a note here, even if you press 1, right, and say that you do want the kit, or even if you press 2 and say that you don't want the kit, the calls are going to continue regardless, because you're basically then telling the scammer, hey, I'm a real human being, keep calling me, I want to be scammed, right? You don't, I'm not saying that, but in their mind, you know that you're real, and they're going to try different ways to get at your money. So let's take a listen to another one, and same thing. Tell me what you guys hear from this that sort of alerts you to whether or not this is a scam.
Hello, this is a call from the Social Security Administration. During these difficult times of the coronavirus, we regret to inform you that we have got an order to suspend your socials immediately within 24 hours due to suspicious and fraudulent activity found on your socials. We are contacting you as this case is critical and needs your urgent attention. To get more information about this case, please call immediately on our department number 888-991-2325. I repeat, 888-991-2325.
Okay, so what about this one? Whoops, what about this one alerts you to whether or not it's a scam? Jay, and I saw the chat for a little bit and now I lost it again. So if you could just let me know what's going on there, I would appreciate it.
Of course, there's nothing in there right now, so we'll give them a moment to things. Some of these can be tricky.
Yeah, definitely. That's why we're here. This one actually does tell you who they are, right? But what else is going on here? What else is going on? So why don't we dissect this, right? Why don't we take it along? So for this one, like I said, they are telling you who it is, but in actuality, the Social Security Administration is not going to call you. They have millions of Americans that they need to reach out to, and they're not going to just call you. That's not the way that they operate. Also, they're telling you that your socials could be suspended, right? Already your socials. That sounds kind of weird, but your social security number cannot be suspended. That's not something that you do with your, that's a number you have for life, and it's not something that could be suspended. It's also telling you to call back within 24 hours. Right, there's this pressure that if you don't call them, you're going to have your social security number potentially be suspended, right? And it's also impersonating a government agency in this case. It's saying that they're the Social Security Administration, which is impersonating a government agency. So those are just some of the red flags. There are obviously others on here. We blocked out the number so that you guys are not calling them back. But yes, this is definitely 100% a scam. So how do you avoid these robocalls? The most basic information I will give you, and a lot of other consumer advocates will give you, is to just not pick up the number if you don't recognize it. If you're afraid that you're going to miss an important phone call, if it's your doctor or something like that, they're going to leave you a message. They're going to find a way to get to you. Sorry. So if it's important, they'll leave you a message. Don't rely on a number that comes up on your phone. Scammers can spoof a number and make it look like anything they want. So they can make it look like your next door's neighbor number. They can make it look like a government agency number, or even a local utility company. And so because of the pandemic, Governor Cuomo's directive in March 13th, if someone does call saying that they're going to turn off your utility, that is completely and 100% a scam as well. The governor signed this directive then. He's extended it numerous times since March, but basically no New Yorker should have their utilities cut off because of non-payment during the state of emergency. So the state of emergency just got extended, I believe, until December 13th. But the governor is constantly sort of updating this directive. So if you have concerns about your utilities, if someone approaches you saying that they're going to cut that off or you're unable to pay, you can call the New York State 24-hour coronavirus hotline and they'll be able to guide you with further information. And their number is listed there. Sorry. So another thing that you can do is that you can use call blocking tools. So earlier in the year, a law got signed called Shaken and Stir. But basically, a lot of the phone providers now have to sort of give you access to block certain numbers. And so I have T-Mobile, for example, and when I get a scam call on my phone, it'll say scam likely. And that's all part of this sort of new law. Also, never give out your personal information, especially when someone calls you that you weren't expecting. So again, let's say someone calls you and say, hey, I noticed some fraudulent activity in your credit card. You're like, oh my gosh, no, that's not me. Okay, can you confirm your account number? Guess what? Just hang up on the phone on that person and try to call your bank directly and not sort of respond to an unexpected call. Like I said, when in doubt, hang up and call the agency directly. You're not going to be rude if you do that. Don't press any numbers to opt out. We sort of noticed that if you do press anything, they will continue to call you. So don't press any number, even if the call says it'll stop. Just don't do it. Also, a note, a government agency is never going to call you, and they're not going to call and ask for your bank account number or payment for you to give them payment in the form of a wire transfer or a gift card. So if you need any sort of government services, more often than not, you're going to be doing it in person, or you're going to make reservations to do it in person. So just be careful, if someone does call you saying that they're from the government and they ask you for personal information like that.
Esther, we have a question in the chat from Margaret. She says,
Sure.
I have T-Mobile too. How do I get them to block things?
So some of it was already automatic. I don't know what phone you have, and I'm not a tech support specialist. But if you do sort of take it into T-Mobile, the guys or the people there would be able to help you so that you can get those alerts. I know that there's something that you can do in your settings, and then it'll block calls from numbers that aren't on your contact. So I don't know how to do that. I don't know what phone you have, and even if I did know, I wouldn't know how to do that off the top of my head. But I would definitely suggest that you take a quick trip to T-Mobile, and they'll be able to help you.
Well, she says thank you.
It's a completely free resource, and you should be able to take advantage of it. All right, so other COVID-19 robocalls that we've seen, and we're not going to necessarily talk about these today because we'll be here for hours and hours and hours. But like I said, we've seen some of them mentioning that they all cut off your utility. We spoke about that. That is completely untrue at this moment in time. Utilities cannot be turned off because of non-payment. We've also seen student loan robocalls saying that you have to pay your student loans when a lot of the student loans are in moratoriums. We've seen some mortgage refinancing robocalls. Those have been around forever, but we've sort of seen them now because of COVID-19 as well. You might have lost your job or whatever. So robocalls are saying, hey, we can help you refinance your mortgage. And then when you try to do all that process, essentially they're just stealing your information. We've also seen robocalls about delivery of critical items. Maybe you'll get a robocall saying, hey, I can get you access to toilet paper or masks or PPEs or whatever. And again, you give them your information and you don't receive anything in the mail. We've also seen robocalls about working from home. Obviously, a lot of us are working from home. Some of us are unemployed and aren't working. And so these work from home scams are popping up a lot. And so the list, again, can go on and on and on. So let's talk now about email scams. So this is an email, a real actual email that I took a screenshot of, and it might be really small, and I apologize for that. But I did want to sort of put everything into one screen. But this is a real email. Someone got it, and I blocked out their email so you don't see their email. But looking at this email here, what are some of the things that sort of pop out at you that could potentially be a scam here? What are some of the things that you're looking at? Let's say if you were to get this email in your inbox, would you throw it in the trash? Would you click on the link? What are you doing here? What are some of the things that you're looking at? And Jay, just let me know what's going on in the chat since I can't see it.
Of course, I'll give people just another moment. But I think something that pops up to me is the email address.
Yeah. Let's wait another second.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're 100% correct, Jay. The email here is not from the IRS. And if you take it a step further, the email that it says from on the top and the email at the bottom, they don't even match, right? So the top says it's from Roseanne at webaccess/alert.com, and then the one on the bottom says it's rtrapino at us.gov. A lot of us, when we get these emails, we don't sort of check the top part where it says from, and we see that it says adjustments, and we don't ever hover over the email. It's important to sort of compare those two, and in this case, those emails do not match, right? Another thing is saying is for you to sort of click on this link. It's giving you a deadline, right? You have to click on this by, this was in August, it's saying you have to click on this by August 7th. The email was received July 24th, and it's saying, hey, you got to click on this by August 7th, right? And it says just click here. It's also using the IRS logo without ever mentioning that they're from the IRS. So if you read the email, it says due to legislation, yada, 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 right? It never sort of mentions that they're from the IRS, but they're saying, you know, federal tax, or using language to sort of make you feel like you are communicating with the IRS. And then they use the sort of signature at the bottom of the email to sort of offer legitimacy, which again, you could just sort of use whatever chicken scratch you want. But they're sort of doing all of these things to give legitimacy to this email. This is 100% a phishing scam. And so this is someone trying to get access to your information. And I'm sure that if you were to click on the link is going to ask you for your name, your social security number, all of this information, and now they have your details. So how do you avoid email phishing scams? Question the source, right? Like I said, you know, we looked at the from and we looked at the signature of the email. They weren't the same, but question where the email is coming from. If in this case it said web access, you know, that sounds a little weird. You've never heard of that before. Don't click on links from sources that you don't know. Again, in this case, we didn't know that who was sending that email. They were also impersonating the IRS. Never click on links from emails that you don't recognize. Just delete it. Just send it to spam and delete it. Make sure that your antivirus and your anti-malware software are up to date. Again, a lot of our computers sort of do this automatically, but sort of take the time to do this every few months to make sure that it's up to date. And whenever possible, use multi-factor authentication, which basically just requires 2 credentials to log into your accounts. I have Gmail on my account. Gmail does that, where I can log in to Gmail, let's say on my work computer. I don't tend to do that on my work computer, so perhaps I'll get a text message on my phone saying, hey, we've noticed that you are trying to log into a different computer. Is this really you? It'll ask me to sort of put in a PIN. That's 2-factor authentication. Back up your data and make sure that those backups aren't connected to your home network. So I suggest that you use an external hard drive or the cloud storage, and not necessarily sort of connect it all into one space, because if that space is compromised, then all of your data is compromised. So try to sort of keep it in a place that isn't connected to your network. Other COVID-19 email scams that we've sort of seen pop up are the COVID-19 test kits. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We've also seen medical billing for COVID-19 testing. I just saw an article in the New York Times about that today, where they're just sort of putting in this like COVID-19 fee that they say your insurance isn't covering, and it's for PPEs, but the doctor or the office might already have them. So why are they charging you money for that? We've also seen hospice enrollment where you'll be enrolled in hospice, or your family member would be enrolled in hospice. But then if you're enrolled in hospice, then you won't get the health care that you need. Let's say you might be a victim of, or a survivor of cancer, whatever, you need your medication, they won't give it to you because you're in hospice. We've also seen government stimulus checks. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And we've also seen charity donation scams where, hey, I'm affected by COVID, I need money, and you give, you feel sorry for them and you want to give money, and then all of a sudden it's definitely a scam. And so again, the list goes on and on and on. So text scams, this is very common, especially in the days we live in. But this is, again, a real screenshot. What about this text message here sort of stands out to you as a potential scam? Very quickly. We'll do a minute, another second or two. I know
Margaret
we're short on
and
time.
Mary are both saying free, and who's giving it away?
Yeah. So I'm going to speed through this because I do have a lot more to do, and it's already 2:35. So with this one, it says we'll give you out a free iPhone 11, right? So now we're up to an iPhone 12. I've actually seen an update to this text that says it's now an iPhone 12. So it sounds too good to be true, right? It's also telling you we'll give you this device to help you spend time at home. But why would the free phone be the item that keeps you home during a pandemic? That just sounds kind of weird. It's also, this website sort of looks a little suspicious, right? It says iPhones2.info, and then it's like all this googly gawk. That looks very suspicious, right? So here's another one, right? This is another sort of text message. 1,000 USD to aid you past the outbreak has been pre-approved. Claim online, and then the link, right? So with this one, it says it's the way that they're writing the currency seems a little suspicious. They're using USD instead of the money sign, so that already sort of seems a little weird to me. It's also saying to aid you past the outbreak, but we're still in this pandemic, right? We're not necessarily past the outbreak. I don't understand that language at all. And it says that you're pre-approved, but how was I pre-approved? Like, how did you select me? Why am I pre-approved? And then lastly, this website looks suspicious. It's asking you to click on the link to claim it, but if you're pre-approved, wouldn't they just give that to you? There's a lot going on here. So how do you avoid text scams? So you delete the text messages from the numbers that you don't recognize. Again, similar to your phone calls, if you don't recognize it, or your emails rather, just delete them. Same thing with text messages. Use a filter and block those messages on your phone. Like I said, if you're unfamiliar to do that, you can go to your telephone company and they'll be able to sort of help you on how to do that. You could also report them to the Federal Trade Commission. Like I said, they're the ones who sort of keep a lot of the data, and they will sort of put it into their database. I understand that you could also send the message to them, so you could just forward that text message to them if you're being very intrepid, or you can just file a complaint on their website at ftc.gov/complaint. Other COVID-19 test scams that we've seen are contact tracing scams. We'll talk about that in a bit. Rapid government stimulus payments, mandatory COVID-19 antibody tests. So we've seen some texts that say that you have to get an antibody test. Otherwise, the police is going to come and arrest you. We've also seen FedEx, UPS delivery scams. Again, a lot of us are staying home and online shopping, so we've seen those pop up as well. So contact tracing scams. So this is another sort of text message that we've seen, and I'm just going to speed right through this, you guys, so I apologize. But this text says someone who came in contact with you tested positive or shown symptoms for COVID-19 and recommend self-isolate and get tested. And then there's a link on there too. We blocked out this particular link here. But in this text message, in this sort of scam, this is 100% a scam. A contact tracer may text you to tell you that they're going to call you, but they're not going to ever text you with a link for you to click. So if you do get these kinds of text messages, don't freak out, think that you have COVID or anything in that sort of case. You know, if you're afraid, you can always obviously go get tested, but you know, this is 100% a scam. So in New York City, we have the Test and Trace Corps. If you get a call, it'll say NYC Test and Trace on your phone, and the number will begin with 212-540 or 212-242. So if you see any of those numbers on your phone, like I said, it will say NYC Test and Trace on your phone. Do pick it up because it is a contact tracer. It's a legitimate contact tracer. In New York State, it'll also say NYC Contact Racing, and their number will be this one, 518-387-9993. And again, for both the city and the state, it'll say that they are who they are on your phone. So even if they're not on your contact, you'll still be able to see who called you. So how do you avoid contact tracing scams? So I want to sort of compare here what a contact tracer will and will not ask you. A real contact tracer won't ask you for money. They're not going to ask you for cash, wire transfer, gift card, Bitcoins. They're not going to ask you for money. They're not going to ask you for your bank account to deposit money. They're not going to ask you for your social security number. They're not even going to ask you for your immigration status. And they, like I said, will not send you a link for you to click on it. They will ask you how you're feeling, if you need any services to stay healthy and avoid further spread. They will ask you how long you need to stay inside and away from others. So they're going to tell you what that process is like. They're going to ask you questions, perhaps, to see how you were infected, and they will ask you for contact information, especially for those you've had close contact with, again, so that they could contact trace them and find out if that other person has been affected as well. So these are the things that they will and will not ask of you. So economic stimulus scams. So we saw this pop up at the beginning of the year, but I am sort of including this now because there are constant talks about getting another round of economic stimulus. So in this sort of particular scam, we sort of see that they say, hey, click on this link to register and update your information in order to receive your economic impact payment regardless of your status. And so this sort of particular scam text comes from the FCC, so they're the ones who we credit for this one. But here, the website looks a little suspicious. It's trying to use COVID-19 website name to lend authenticity. So again, you might quickly be glancing at it. You see that it says IRS COVID-19. Oh my gosh, like I need money. I'm affected by this, and you click on it. When in actuality, it's a real scam. It's also asking you to register or update your information. And as far as we knew at the beginning of the year, your economic impact payment didn't require additional action from you. It was either direct deposited in your mail or in your bank account or sent to your home via mail in a check. So there wasn't anything you had to do. Only non-filers have to do something extra, but for the majority of the part, there wasn't anything additional that you had to do. And it's also trying to use the word status to give you sort of and give you some fear and uncertainty, right? So maybe you might be undocumented, maybe you're fearful of your finances. So it's used sort of term here to sort of make you want to click on this link. So how do you avoid economic stimulus scams? So again, the most basic information I will ever give you is delete any emails, text messages, phone calls that you receive. Again, a lot of this are phishing scams, and so you're not being rude by doing any of that. Just delete it. Your economic impact payment, like I said, were direct deposited into your accounts or they were sent to your home if you filed taxes in 2018 or 2019. So you didn't have to do a thing. It was just sort of given to you automatically. Avoid clicking on the links in any unrequested emails, and be careful with emails that have attachments, because the attachments, again, when you click on them, are also probably downloading viruses onto your computer. And like I said earlier, and I will say 100 times again, government agencies don't just randomly send you emails or text messages asking for your private information in order to give you money that you're already entitled to. Don't sign over your economic impact payment to anyone. We've also sort of seen that happen as well, especially among the older community, where someone will say, hey, I'll take care of this check for you, just sign it over to me, and then they take the money and run and you don't see anything. We've also sort of seen bogus checks. The economic impact payment that we received earlier in the year was sort of a round number, but we've seen these bogus checks come up with like these weird numbers on them. So that's also another sort of alert as well. And they'll send you the check and say, hey, cash it, but I overpaid you, hey, pay me back. And then once the bank sort of catches up to the various ways that they authenticate a check, your money is all gone. So don't cash unsolicited checks. Scammers use these tactics to get your bank account information. So just be careful with that. So online shopping scams, I believe this is the last one. So here we have an ad that usually pops up on the side of your websites, right? And so I got this. I took a screenshot of this. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. But one of the things that I noticed on this one is that it said digitally printed fabric face masks for all ages, durable and lightweight, and it says moisture hyphen, and then there's nothing else there. When I clicked on it, my computer just said, hey, this connection is not private. And this website is impersonating somebody and is trying to steal your personal and financial information. You should close this page. So my computer already just like, hey, Esther, don't mess around with this. Not everyone's computer is set up this way. So with this particular ad here, I just sort of thought, what does digitally printed mean, right? Like, does that mean that I just printed on my printer? I don't understand what that means. It's also, there's a typo. It says moisture hyphen, but then there's nothing after that. So already there's something wrong with this ad. Although the website may have been legitimate, the ad is being cloned look like a real website. So had I continued on and wanted to see what was going on and decided, hey, no, show me the details, I would have 100% have been on a cloned website, which is very real now. Not every computer is set to alert you to cloned websites. Like I said, mine is, just because I have it set up that way. I'm also on a Mac. But you know, again, this is why it's so important to sort of make sure that your malware and viruses are sort of up to date on your computer, so that all of these things that are constantly evolving, you have the latest and the greatest of it. So how do you avoid online shopping scams? And this is so important, especially as most of us are home, especially as the holidays are coming up and we're going to want to buy, you know, toys for our grandkids and nieces and nephews and what have you. But shop on trusted sites with retailers known to you. One of the ads that I saw recently on my phone is we're all sort of new about Amazon, but this one said Amazon or something like that. And it just sort of had like the letter S in front of it. And had you been looking at it really fast, you're like, oh yeah, I'm on Amazon. But no, you're actually on a cloned site, and this one had the letter S in front of it. Especially in the era of social media and marketing, influencers will sort of say, hey, I'm wearing this shirt. It only cost me $30. If you buy this at the store, it'll cost you $60. You know, buy it with me. So again, be careful when you see those things popping up on your social media. You're actually exposing yourself to sham businesses. And so it's important to just sort of look very quickly on Google, do a quick little search to find out if you're actually dealing with a real legitimate business, because you don't want to purchase something and then get a low quality version of what you actually wanted. So use caution when you're on these sites. Also be careful of third vendors. So sometimes we're on Amazon, but Amazon may not have it, and so they may sort of send us to a third party who does, and that's fine. That's all well and good, but make sure that when you're redirected to those third party sites, that you're actually on a trusted site, right? Amazon's not perfect; they do make mistakes, and so it's important for you to sort of do your due diligence if you get redirected to these third parties. And I'm sort of using Amazon as an example. I have no say or what have you on what you use to sort of get what you need, but just using that as an example. Do your research. If you want to try a new site or a new retailer, just again, do a quick little search to make sure that you're dealing with a trusted site. do whatever the name of the site is and reviews, and search for it that way to see what comes up and how the company responds to its customers. Read the comments, anything on social media, things like that, to make sure that you feel confident as you make this purchase. Also, check on the website's encryptions, right? And so this sounds very technical, but it's actually easier than you think. Before you put in your credit card information, a lot of the websites will then switch over to being HTTPS. The HTTPS, the S stands for secure. And so if it does say HTTPS : // and then the name of the site, you're on a secured site. You'll also sometimes see, depending on which browser you're using, a closed lock on your computer, either on the browser or at the bottom of the page. Or if you're using a different browser, you might see a key symbol that's unbroken. So any one of those two things on your purchases before you put in your credit card information, you're on a good page. Protect your passwords as well. Update them regularly. Don't reuse your passwords. I actually like to think of it as using a passphrase instead of a password. So, instead of using one word, maybe use a full sentence, and that's your password. It's a lot harder for hackers to sort of hack into your accounts if you use longer passwords than shorter ones. It's not impossible. It's just harder for them to do it. So make them work. And then also use two-factor authentication to manage those passwords. I've also seen sort of password managers where you can sort of buy an app or get an app on your phone, or maybe your phone does it, and you can just store all of your passwords on there. That's fine, so long as you're doing it correctly. Don't become the product as you're sort of shopping online, right? I know Margaret has sort of alerted us to free, and that's obviously true. When things are free, sometimes more often than not, you're actually the product. So don't become the product. Everything you do on your computer or your device creates a digital imprint. The information is tracked, compiled. It's called behavior marketing. So just adjust the privacy settings to a level that's comfortable to you. So in summary, I know we've talked a lot. So watch out for emails from experts claiming to have information about coronavirus. We didn't necessarily talk about that, but I do want to note that here. For the most up-to-date information, like I said, check out those trusted sites. And here we have the New York State Department of Health as one of those examples. There's a lot of other places that I mentioned earlier that you can go to sort of see the most up-to-date information on coronavirus. Ignore any offers for vaccines. Again, we didn't talk about this, but I do want to make a note on this. If you see any ads saying, hey, that we can prevent COVID, or I have a treatment for COVID, or a cure for COVID, ask yourself if there's been a medical breakthrough. Are you going to know about it randomly by sort of just going through the website? It'll be all over the news. So just be wary of that. Beware of emails and texts asking for donations. So do your homework before you sort of donate to anybody, not just because it's COVID, but don't let anyone rush you into donating. And if you really do want to donate, again, do it in a way that you're secure and safe. Be careful with work from home offers. Again, a lot of us are home. Some of us are unemployed. So, if it sounds too good to be true, or they're asking you to recruit more friends so that you can make more money, again, that's another sort of flag that you might be dealing with a scammer here. In summary, don't give out your personal information in response to an unsolicited call, text, or email. Do pick up do have on scammers and unsolicited phone calls. Don't pick up or respond to a text message from an unknown number. So if you do get those, again, just hang up. You're not being rude. Don't click on links from sources that you don't know. Again, those could be more harmful than you know. And don't cash unsolicited or bogus looking checks. Do delete text messages from numbers you don't recognize. Use those call blocking tools from your phone provider. Walk into whoever your phone provider is and have them sort of help you do that if you're unsure how to do it. Remember, a government agency is never going to call you. ignore any unofficial cures or offers for COVID-19 vaccination until they are approved by the FDA. So inevitably, they are the ones who are going to approve anything, and you'll know about it. It'll be in the news. So as a resource, we do have our consumer assistance helpline. Their phone number is 800-697-120. They are available Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30, excluding state holidays. There's some pretty amazing group of consumer advisors there. They are great, and they speak a whole bunch of different languages. So do give them a call if you have any issues with a business, if you want to let us know about scam calls, if you want to file a complaint, feel free to reach out to us at the Department of State. I also want to sort of mention the Federal Trade Commission. They are a fantastic resource to have. They just created this reportfraud.ftc.gov website last week. This is where you go if you want to report fraud or identity theft or scams or what have you. This is their new and updated website. So lastly, this is our contact information. That's my email, dcpoutreach@dos.ny.gov. Feel free to reach out to me. I know that we sort of rushed through this at the end, but I just wanted to make sure that I got all of the information in as well. We also have Facebook and Twitter. We do post a lot of information on both of those pages. If a product has been recalled on a state level here in New York, we do post those product recalls on our pages, as well as sort of any tips and tricks in order to stay an educated consumer in New York State. So with that, I open it up to any questions that you guys might have.
Esther, I'm not sure if you're seeing the chat, but we do have
I am
2
now,
comments.
for whatever reason.
Yes, it looks like Mary saying thank you for an informative presentation, and Margaret says this was very informative. I wish more people were listening. I'm glad you were taping it. Thank you. So thank you so much for all the information. I know it was informative for me as well as our patrons that attended.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing this presentation with us. Are there any other questions for Esther? Oh, Mary left, so I'm going to say that's a no. And all right. So, all right. Esther, thank you so much again for the presentation. It was very informative.
All right. Bye, everyone.